Hello, and welcome to another 9-minute Bible study. Let's start with Luke chapter 19, and let's look at verse 1. And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. As we mentioned in our last lesson, this is the only time, from what we can tell from the Gospels, that Jesus went to the city of Jericho. So far, a blind man outside the city, even though the locals wanted him to be quiet, he aggressively sought his healing, and he received it from Jesus. He was restored. He could see clearly. Now Jesus, he's entering into the city. This is the city of a publican or tax collector by the name of Zacchaeus. Let's describe this man. He was a thief and a robber. This is a man who legally had the job of collecting taxes for the Romans, but he charged whatever he wanted, and he kept the extra for himself. In the eyes of the people, this was the lowest of the low, the scummiest of the scum. He was the one the parents told their little children, "Don't go near that man. He'll corrupt you. He'll make you evil and dishonest." This is the guy the townspeople of Jericho hated with a passion. Now this man Zacchaeus, he heard that Jesus was coming to Jericho. Now what did he hear along the way? He heard, this guy Jesus, one of his closest followers, was an evil, low-down tax collector. Well, he came to Jesus, and guess what happened? He changed completely. He became an honest and upright man. He became very good, highly respectable, because he's with Jesus. And Zacchaeus, he's thinking, if I can just get to Jesus, maybe I could be Jericho's version, not of the dirty, low-down thief and robber, but I could be Jericho's version of Matthew, the publican who came to Jesus and received forgiveness and became a brand new person. Only problem, Zacchaeus was short, or as we sung in Sunday school, he was a wee little man. Zacchaeus, he could not see Jesus for the life of him because he was too short. And townspeople, they're not going to give this guy any advantage to get to the front of the line. After all, he's a thief and a robber. And a thief and a robber has no place near the master. Well, that's what a lot of people thought then, and let's be honest. That's what a lot of people think now. That those who are dirty, low-down, rotten sinners, that they really can't come to Jesus. Amen. Let's keep them away from Jesus, if anything. This was the logic of the Pharisees. This was the logic of those who didn't like sinners. Jesus, however, as we will find out, had a different agenda. Verse 2, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was the chief among the publicans. He just wasn't a thief and a robber. He was the boss of the thief and the robbers. And he was rich because he was good at stealing and robbing. Verse 3. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press. Big crowd wouldn't allow him to get to the front because he was, a wee little man. Verse 4. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. This guy, talk about an aggressive action. I can't see Jesus. I can't bribe enough people to get to the front of the line. How am I going to do this? I think I'll climb that tree. Maybe Jesus will see me if I climb that tree. And understand something. If Zacchaeus doesn't climb that tree, we have no account, because Jesus would not have seen Zacchaeus. But here comes Zacchaeus. He climbs that tree. What happens? Verse 5. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said unto him, Zacchaeus. Question. How does Jesus know this man's name? He's never been to Jericho. Matthew wouldn't know who he was. Nobody in Jesus' traveling party would know who this guy was. The Holy Spirit revealed to Jesus not just who Zacchaeus was, but where he would be, and that it was important for Jesus to meet him. Read the rest of the verse. Make haste and come down, for today I must abide at your house. Think about this. You could say honestly that there was one reason why Jesus came to Jericho. It was to stay at Zacchaeus' house. It was not to stay at the house of the mayor of the city or the head of the Chamber of Commerce. It was not to stay with the local police chief or the leader of the Pharisees or the Sadducees or the priest in the community. Jesus came to Jericho to see the lowest of the low, a thief and a robber. Why? Because the Holy Spirit had a different plan, and so does Jesus. Verse 6. And he made haste and came down and received him. How? Joyfully. When Jesus changes one's life, one will turn from sorrow to joy. That's how complete Jesus will be in a person's life. A total and complete and total change. Verse 7. And when they saw it, the local citizens of Jericho, they all murmured, saying that he is gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. In other words, Jesus came to our town just to hang out with him, the thief and the robber, the guy who steals us blind. But what they don't realize was, when Jesus gets a hold of a person, there's a secondary effect. When Jesus deals with Zacchaeus, he's going to change. He will no longer be the local thief and a robber. When the gospel changes a person, it will affect everyone in the community. In the case of Jesus and Zacchaeus, what's going to be the change? He's going to no longer be a thief and a robber. He's no longer going to rob and destroy the lives of people. When Jesus moves, when Jesus changes lives, there's going to be changes in other areas that will benefit not just a few, but benefit the entire group. That's what's going to happen here. Jesus changes, it benefits all. And we'll pick up with this in our next lesson.